Welcome to the Portland Culinary Podcast and Portland Culinary Radio. I'm really excited today. Our podcast episode is Wasabi 101. Joining me is an awesome guest, Jennifer Bloser. Good morning, Jennifer. How are you?
Good morning, Stephen. I'm excellent and very happy to be here.
So you are the co-founder with your husband, Marcus Mead, who is a wonderful human being, and you're the co-founder of Oregon Coast Wasabi, and you're the CEO. So you're an entrepreneur, you're a businesswoman, and you're a farmer. You have the largest Oregon or wasabi farm in the United States at the Oregon Coast, and your business here is based here in Portland, and you do a lot of really cool stuff with wasabi. And I didn't know. I knew a little bit about wasabi, but then when I met you, I started learning a tremendous amount. So I thought it'd be fun. We did a podcast episode, growing wasabi in your backyard, because people know you can do that. And we talked about that. We did a podcast episode where we told your story, because it's really interesting how you went from selling pears as a child on the sidewalk to becoming a scientist to becoming a farmer.
They're a very logical, linear progression.
Yeah, and your family had background in steel, so of course you'd become a farmer.
Sure, makes sense.
But this episode is Wasabi 101, because I just think there's a really cool thing that there's a lot of mystery about, and that's kind of what makes it fun. But you kind of you show us a little bit of the magic, how the tricks are done, and so we know. So right off the bat, what is wasabi? What's your boring scientific answer for wasabi?
So a lot of people think that wasabi is somehow associated with wasabi peas. You know those peas that you get that are coated in, well, people don't know that they're coated. So wasabi is a plant, and it is in the same family as broccoli and cauliflower. So it's in the Brassica family. It's in the Brassica family. It's related to mustard greens and kale and chard and those plants. And it is, so the part of the wasabi that's grated into...
What's the official name? What's the scientific name?
The scientific name is Wasabia japonica.
Wasabia japonica. So that is actual...
That is the actual wasabi plant.
Okay.
So a real wasabi paste comes from a wasabi plant. And you can get it in a powder, although most powders are fake, which we may talk about later. But it grows a lot like kale and chard and broccoli. And if you imagine the stalk of the broccoli, wasabi plants produce a stalk like that also. And it's often called a rhizome or a root. It's not really either of those things. It grows above the ground, just like the broccoli stalk. And that's the plant that gets grated into the paste that you would eat with sushi.
Okay, so there's as I understand it, there's 4 parts to a wasabi plant, and if people are listening to this podcast and want to see photos, they just can go to portlandculinarypodcast.com and find this episode, Wasabi 101, and there's photos of at least 3 of the 4 parts. I don't think I have good photos of roots, but maybe I can get some someday. But just from the top, you've got the leaves. Those are wasabi greens, and those can be eaten.
Yep.
And if you're growing wasabi in the backyard, harvest them about every 6 weeks. Then right below the leaf is the leaf stem. Kind of looks like thin celery. It's spicy. You can eat it. You can cook with it. So you have that. And then below that, above the dirt, is that kind of knobby green thing. And that's the part where people think of traditionally as wasabi. That's the part that you grate up with paste.
Right.
And you sell really cool kits on your website where people can, get the grater and they can get the brush, and it looks really cool. And I've had it. It's amazing. And then the 4th part is the actual roots. And they look like roots.
They look like white fibrous roots.
And so when people say, oh, I've got wasabi root, what they mean is they have the plant stalk, that kind of green knobby thing to make the paste.
Correct. Yep.
But wasabi itself is a plant.
Wasabi is a plant.
With 4 parts. I get the 4 parts right?
You got the 4 parts exactly right. Yep.
Yeah, and I think it's important for people to realize what they're getting. Now, so wasabi peas, I thought those were wasabi seeds.
No, they're not. They're just peas covered in probably fake, most likely fake wasabi paste. Yeah, they're just peas.
Just like most of the sushi restaurants in the United States, most of the wasabi they sell is fake wasabi. It's horseradish with some green food coloring, and it's not actually real horseradish or wasabi at all.
It is not. Yeah, 90+% of it is just.
And the first time you told me, I thought you were crazy, and you were wearing a conspiracy and a tin hat, and discovered, had some friends, sushi restaurants, and you're right. And I don't know how they get away with this lie. I don't know how they do it, but thank goodness I do know. Like I love Zilla Sake and Sushi, and they carry your wasabi.
They do,
and you can get real wasabi with the sushi. I've had it there, and it is amazing.
They do an awesome job. Yeah.
Okay, so is wasabi horseradish?
No, wasabi and horseradish are 2 different plants.
2 different plants.
2 different plants. Sometimes people call it, you can see it labeled as Japanese horseradish. So It is not horseradish. The confusing thing is that horseradish is in the same family as wasabi, but wasabi is its own distinct plant.
Yeah, and yeah, just like, Aunt Bertha and Uncle Ed are two different people.
Exactly.
Same family, very different people.
Yeah, exactly. That's a
And
good,
you don't want to cross Aunt Bertha. That's bad news right there.
good example.
Two different people.
Good analogy.
And two different plants. And so in people's, I think part of the reason some people think, oh, it's the Japanese horseradish, and if they get horseradish, they almost think somehow if it's green they've had wasabi.
Right.
And that's just not the case.
No, correct. Yeah, because a lot of it's fake.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so wasabi is originally from Japan.
Yes.
And it's been growing there for thousands
of years. Thousands of years. And its native habitat in Japan is stream beds. So if you have a chance to go online or to go to Japan and see one, or go online and look up a Japanese wasabi farm, they're really beautiful. They're terraced stream beds, and they're usually terraced by hand, and it's all these stones. And then the plants are in the shade underneath the tree canopy in moving water. And so that's the other reason why people think that wasabi plants require a lot of water, because they've seen some video or something of what a Japanese wasabi farm looks like, but they don't really. And the Japanese started using wasabi originally because of its antibacterial properties. And so they put it on raw fish as a way to help protect against food poisoning, to help kill any of the bacteria or other things that would be on the raw fish.
And then you grow real wasabi in the United States.
We grow real wasabi, really high quality wasabi in the United States.
And what's that Japo what? How do you say that?
The name of the wasabi is Wasabi japonica.
Wasabi japonica. You grow that. You're not growing arugula.
No.
You're not growing mustard greens.
We're growing true Wasabi japonica on the Oregon coast.
All right. Yeah. Which is really cool. It's so awesome.
It is awesome. It's a lot of fun.
That's why the name of the company, Oregon Coast Wasabi, because it's right there on the Oregon coast. Okay, so there's so you have a lot of culinary uses for wasabi, and not just the leaf stalk, but the stems and the leaves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, lots of different, and a lot of the restaurants that we sell to aren't even Japanese or sushi restaurants. So you can use wasabi in a lot of different ways. It's really good with any kind of protein. And actually one of the very traditional ways to eat it is with steak. It's delicious with steak.
Now that's the paste.
That's the paste. If you grate up the root.
It's not the root, it's the leaf stalk.
Sorry, yes, that's true. It's the plant stalk.
Yeah, plant stalk.
Grate up the plant stalk. But then we have, as Stephen mentioned, you have the delicious leaf stalks and the leaves or the greens. And I tell people anything you do with kale, you do with wasabi. So you can eat it raw in salads. You can saute it with a little bit of olive oil. You can make it into a pesto. It's actually really delicious because it's slightly spicy. So you
take the greens and make a pesto with the greens.
Yeah, you can take the greens and make a pesto with the greens. So you can steam it and wrap things in it, or you can use it raw and use it as a wrap. We've used it with smoked salmon and some creme fraiche.
I've had the leaves with spanakopita.
That's
the
a great
stems I treat like green onion. So I just take kitchen shears and just snip them up in little pieces, almost look like green onion, and put them in soup, like a 15-bean soup, or garlic mashed potatoes. All of a sudden, they magically become garlic wasabi mashed potatoes. Some people think there's health properties to wasabi. I'm not saying that. You're not saying that. Just so we're very clear legally. But if someone does and they want the health properties, you can juice the leaves and juice the stems.
Yep.
If you're going to juice the stems to if you want to have juice for cocktails, I would advise just juicing the stems because you get the flavor, but not some of the vegetal flavor that comes through with the leaves itself. And you can just store that juice in the refrigerator for a long time and just dump it in with your vodka and have a wasabi martini.
Yep. Or if you juice enough of it, you can make a really delicious sorbet. Like a coconut. We made a coconut lime wasabi sorbet.
Oh my gosh.
With cream coconut as the base, and then obviously some lime and agave. And when you juice the stems, it's a beautiful green. So it was a really lovely, like light green, delicious, spicy, limey sorbet.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah. And I know you're talking about maybe doing a collaboration with Vivian Lee Kimchi and having there'll be a wasabi kimchi maybe.
So excited about that. I think the wasabi kimchi is going to be such a delicious thing.
Yeah, because we tried a little bit of the first draft, and that was just amazing how much you could the wasabi just added some depth, the richness to kimchi, and it's like, okay, I could it was incredible.
It's going to be a super fun collaboration.
So that's the cool thing that people don't realize wasabi is that it's not just the plant stalk, the part that's paste. You can use all three.
You can use all three. The entire plant's edible.
Yeah. Even the roots?
Even the roots.
So what do you do with the roots?
Yeah, well, I think the best thing to do with the roots, and what we're experimenting with a little bit, is it is because they're so spicy. You could sort of macerate them, like you would a piece of some mint, like for a cocktail. Macerate the roots and then use them to infuse things, because you wouldn't want to chew on them. They're just really fibrous.
So almost like take a muddler and then put them like in a
Yeah.
neutral oil, like a grapeseed oil, and make a wasabi
You
oil.
can make a wasabi oil. Yep.
Ooh,
Yep.
that would be good to cook with steak.
It
Oh
would.
man,
Yeah.
that's phenomenal. Okay, any other basics? Something important, Wasabi 101, is you can grow wasabi in your backyard. We don't need to cover that here. We did a separate podcast episode all about that. But that's the thing. You can grow wasabi in your backyard everywhere in the United States. People don't believe it. Listen to the podcast. You tell everyone the secrets.
Yes. We're all about wasabi for the people. So we're all about getting the message out that it's really not as difficult to grow wasabi as its reputation states that it is. So it's delicious, and you'll have edible greens year round.
I love it. So you become like a wasabi evangelist.
I am a wasabi. Actually, my mother has a business card that says wasabi evangelist on it.
That is phenomenal. Well, I know that your wasabi is fresh, hot, and real.
Fresh, hot, real. That's our tagline.
I love it. All right. Well, I think we've covered the basics of wasabi. If you are listening to this podcast and you haven't actually had real wasabi, I encourage you to get your hands on some real, fresh wasabi, not dried, not the powder. Often that stuff is not real, but real wasabi, and it is an incredible ingredient to have a lot of fun with.
Thanks, Steven.
All right. Cheers, everyone.